If you are overwhelmed by the hundreds of testosterone supplements on the market, this is the last video you'll ever need to watch because I'm going to break down the latest scientific literature on which supplements actually have evidence for increasing testosterone and which ones do not. Speaking of that research, there were three studies that I used to create this video, and they're called reviews. A review takes all of the existing studies on a specific topic and amalgamates the findings into one major conclusion. So, for example, let's say there were five main studies about one supplement on the market. A review would take all of those studies, combine them together, and extract the main takeaways. So, these three reviews looked at probably almost up to 100 different supplements on the market. So, this is the most comprehensive body of literature that you're going to find on testosterone supplements. And I've extracted all of the most popular supplements and those that have the most evidence for being effective. And I used those to make this video because there were way too many to cover all of them. So I left out all the supplements that most people don't hear about or just have no effect at all, and only focused on the supplements that have any sort of evidence for increasing testosterone. The first that goes in the D tier category is creatine. I included this because it's a really popular, well-known supplement. There were three studies that looked at the effect of creatine on testosterone. Two of them showed no effect. There was one where they combined creatine with a different supplement, beta-alanine, and even the combination of the two showed no effect. So you can cross creatine and beta-alanine off your list as supplements for increasing testosterone. Creatine has a whole host of other benefits for performance enhancing, but when it comes to testosterone, it doesn't have any benefits. The second is Maca, and this goes in the D tier. This is another really popular supplement for increasing testosterone, but I'm not sure why, because there's only two main studies that looked at how maca affects testosterone, and neither of them had any difference in testosterone compared to a baseline or a placebo. Maca has been shown to have aphrodisiac benefits. People report higher feelings of libido when they're taking maca, but since it does not increase testosterone, those reports of increased libido must be caused from some other factor. Up next is Tribulus Terrestris. This is arguably one of the most well-known testosterone boosters, but its reputation is not justified. The researchers said there were only four articles on this compound, and none of them confirmed that it was effective for increasing testosterone. There was only one that found a very slight improvement in testosterone in men who had late onset hypogonadism. So that just means their testosterone levels were already low. However, it only increased their testosterone a little bit. So the takeaway is that Tribulus is only going to help with testosterone very slightly if your testosterone levels are already quite low. Not much evidence here. It goes in the D tier. Next up is horny goatweed. Also, the scientific word is barrenwort. Now, this has some evidence in animal studies. A recent rat study found that it increased testosterone levels after administration for a period of 8 weeks compared to a control. However, since the only research on this supplement is in rats, there's not enough evidence to conclude that it has any benefit in humans. Next up in the D tier category is both zinc and magnesium. And this might come as a surprise to you. If you've done any reading about testosterone, I'm sure you've heard that these minerals are really important. However, what you need to understand is that zinc and magnesium only confer a benefit on testosterone production if you are deficient. So if you're low in zinc and magnesium and you supplement to get you back to normal, that will increase your testosterone levels, but it will just get them up to baseline. And you should be getting plenty of zinc and magnesium in your diet if you're eating a well-rounded, whole foods based diet. So the best food sources of zinc are red meat and oysters. If you're just eating a couple steaks, ground beef throughout the week, you'll get plenty of zinc. All you need is, I think, like an oyster a day or even less. So if you just get a couple oysters, you'll have more than enough zinc It's also found in pumpkin seeds and some other plant sources in lower concentrations, and in other types of meats. It's kind of sprinkled throughout other different food sources. And magnesium is similar. There's some really good sources of magnesium like avocados, nuts, cacao powder is a really good one, but it's found in all types of fruits and vegetables. So the take home message for zinc and magnesium is just eat a well balanced diet with a wide variety of meats, fruits and vegetables, and you'll get plenty of these. You don't need to supplement with them. Moving on to the C tier, we have fenugreek. There were 6 studies on Fenugreek, and 4 of them demonstrated an increase in testosterone, while the other 2 showed no effect. However, what you need to understand is similar to Tribulus, the Fenugreek mostly only increased testosterone in men who already had low testosterone. So it's only going to confer a little bit of a benefit if your testosterone levels are already quite low. So it goes in the C tier category because for most guys, it's not going to do much for you. Next in the C tier category is Forskhohli. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This one, again, similar to Fenugreek and Tribulus, they found that 12 weeks of supplementation in overweight or obese men was associated with a significant increase in testosterone, 13.6%, which is pretty significant. But if you're not obese, they didn't find any significant benefit. Also, in the obese men where they did notice a testosterone improvement, there was no increase in free testosterone. Free testosterone is the version of testosterone circulating in your body that can actually bind to receptors and exert effects. So, if you happen to be quite overweight or obese, you might want to try this supplement. It could help you increase your testosterone. And if you don't know, higher testosterone levels will help you lose body fat. But again, since it's not free testosterone, it might not do anything at all. So it goes in the C tier category. The third one in the C tier category is Shilajit. Shilajit is this, it's technically a resin that grows on rocks, if you've never heard of it before. And some the research is pretty promising. They found that after 90 days, they did find a statistically significant increase in testosterone. However, what you need to be really careful of with this study is it was industry funded, which means the company that makes this Shilajit brand, Prima V TM, they were the ones who funded the research. So this means that there's a risk of bias because they have an incentive to show that this increases testosterone because then they'll make more sales. So just be hesitant with Shilajit. The other problem with the Shilajit study is there was no mechanism. So they didn't show how Shilajit increases testosterone. They just said that it does. So it could just be that since Shilajit is really rich in a lot of minerals, it could just be that guys who were deficient in some minerals reverse those deficiencies and that increase their testosterone, but they don't actually need Shilajit to do that. They could just eat a healthy diet that includes those minerals. Shilajit's also extremely expensive. It has some risk of toxicity with other things. It's it's just really not worth it in my opinion for most guys. Vitamin D, this one might surprise you as well, but really similar to zinc and magnesium, vitamin D is only going to improve your testosterone levels if you are deficient. It's not going to take your testosterone above normal. That said, vitamin D is really important for testosterone production. So if you are deficient, it will have a negative effect. So vitamin D is worth supplementing in the winter, but in the spring, fall, and summer, as long as you're getting 20 to 30, at least 20 to 30 minutes of sunlight while you're wearing short sleeves. So obviously the sun has to touch your skin in order for the vitamin D to be absorbed through your skin. That's how you get enough vitamin D. 20 to 30 minutes of sun exposure per day. In the winter, supplement with about 10,000 IUs is the general recommendation. Vitamin D, another reason it goes in the C tier category, it is pretty hard to get through food. So zinc and magnesium you can get just by eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, but vitamin D is mostly only found in eggs and some dairy products. But based on what I've read, you have to eat so much. It's quite challenging to meet your vitamin D intake recommendations just through food. So it's definitely worth supplementing in the winter. But since you don't need it for the rest of the year, it goes in the C tier category. Next in the C tier category is this branded proprietary blend of cacao and pomegranate by the company Tensor TM. The research shows a significant increase in T was reported compared to baseline and placebo, and they also found that the higher the dose, the greater the increase in testosterone. Again, you need to be careful with this because, like Shilajit, this was another industry-funded study. The company paid to have this research done. That doesn't mean that all industry-funded studies are impossible to interpret, or it doesn't mean that they're all illegitimate. It just means you need to be a bit skeptical with the findings, especially when there's no mechanism. And like the Shilajit research, there was no mechanism. They didn't explain how this increases testosterone. They just found that it did. In fairness, mechanistic studies finding the chemical pathways through which something affects testosterone is pretty hard to do. It requires a lot more in-depth research, so it's understandable that they didn't find the mechanisms. But if there's no mechanism and it's industry funded, you just want to be a bit skeptical. My hypothesis for this supplement, since it's cacao and pomegranate, is it probably has something to do with increasing nitric oxide. Both cacao and pomegranate have been shown to increase nitric oxide. If you're not familiar with it, it's just this, it's technically a gas in your bloodstream that dilates, it widens your blood vessels and allows for more blood flow. So when you have more blood flow throughout your whole body, you're going to be distributing oxygen and nutrients to all parts of your body, including your testicles. And when your organs get plenty of oxygen and nutrients, they function better. However, since that's not a direct effect on the process that produces testosterone, it's not really right to say that it's a testosterone booster. It's just improving blood flow, which has a ancillary benefit on testosterone. The other thing is you can just eat a well-balanced diet with a lot of nutritious foods. You can just eat cacao and pomegranate without buying this specific supplement. There's a whole lot of other foods out there that increase nitric oxide, like beets and spinach. But the takeaway is that you probably don't need to buy this supplement. You can just eat well-balanced diet with plenty of fruits and vegetables, and that's going to help you produce testosterone. The first contender for the B tier category is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha was the first of the herbal supplements shown to increase testosterone in healthy men. So all the other ones only increase testosterone in obese or men with low testosterone. Ashwagandha was shown to increase testosterone in men with hypogonadism, so low testosterone, but also in healthy men. Thankfully, with ashwagandha, we do know what the mechanism for increasing testosterone levels is, and it does that by lowering cortisol. Ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb, and adaptogens reduce the stress hormone cortisol. When you have too much cortisol flowing through your bloodstream, this blocks out testosterone. So by reducing cortisol, ashwagandha frees up testosterone to flow and do its thing in your body. However, that's not a direct effect on the process that increases testosterone, so it just goes in the B tier category because it's an indirect mechanism. So if you're especially stressed out or you have a really challenging work schedule coming up, ashwagandha might be worth taking to kind of help you blunt or offset the effects of a stressful life. Next in the B tier category is betaine. The research showed that after 2 weeks of supplementing with betaine, male endurance athletes had a 94% increase in testosterone. But don't get too excited because the researchers, first of all, mentioned that this seems too good to be true. They say it's not clear if this effect is transferable to other populations. The athletes that they were studying were engaging in really, really strenuous training. And most people don't do that. Most people just work out casually and they're not pushing themselves at the absolute max. So, to understand why betaine might not be super effective for the general population, you need to understand the mechanisms. The researchers said that their hypothesis for how betaine increases testosterone is twofold for the most part. Number one is it increases anaerobic output potential. So I know that's a lot of big words. I'll break that down. Anaerobic training is just anything that involves really high intensity. So think sprinting, lifting weights, anything that's explosive and requires fast, high power output, short bursts of energy. This type of training has the greatest effect on testosterone. Betaine supports anaerobic training by increasing acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that essentially helps your muscles contract harder. The layman's translation for this is by improving one's ability to engage in highly intense exercise, which thereby increases testosterone. Betaine indirectly increases testosterone. So I'll make it even simpler. Betaine helps you work harder in the gym, and when you work harder in the gym, that increases testosterone. The second way that betaine improves testosterone is on the back end. After you work out really hard, your body increases levels of a stress hormone cortisol. And if you work out too hard and your cortisol levels are too high, that can lead to a decrease of testosterone. And this is known as overtraining. Betaine has been shown to blunt the post-exercise release in cortisol. So after you train really, really hard, betaine kind of brings down that spike of the stress hormone cortisol. And like we talked about before, when cortisol is lower, it allows testosterone to be higher. So, in summary, betaine helps you work harder in the gym. After you work harder in the gym, it lowers your body's stress response to all that hard work you just put in. Betaine doesn't have a direct effect on the pathways in your testicles that create testosterone. It only will help you if you train really, really hard. You still have to do the work. And the main benefit in the betaine studies is the working out itself, not the supplement. The supplement just helps you engage in the workout and recover from the workout. That said, if you happen to be someone who trains really, really hard, this supplement could help you train harder and recover better, which will improve your testosterone levels. The last thing to mention about betaine is the best food sources of it are mostly just whole grains and beets. So it's not found in a whole lot of foods. And if you're like me and you limit your intake of whole grains and breads because it's not ancestrally consistent, you might not have a whole lot of betaine in your diet. So it might be worth supplementing in very specific cases where you train extremely hard and you don't eat a lot of grains. The third one in the B tier category is Fadogia agrestis. Now, this wasn't specifically studied in those three papers that I looked at. However, I listened to a lot of podcasts and do a lot of research on testosterone. And two really well known researchers, Andrew Huberman and Kyle Gillette, both say Fadogia agrestis is highly effective. So I felt a video about testosterone supplements, not including Fadogia agrestis, would be a disservice. So I looked into some of the research specifically on Fadogia agrestis, and there are no human studies. It's just been shown to increase testosterone in rats, but we do know the mechanism. Since we know the mechanism, that increases the the evidence for logically saying that it could increase testosterone. The mechanism is it increases luteinizing hormone. So luteinizing hormone is released from the pituitary gland in your brain, and that's what travels down and directly tells your testicles to increase testosterone. So since we know the mechanism, and the mechanism is actually the most direct biological process for producing testosterone, there's more evidence to say that Fadogia agrestis would have a positive effect on testosterone. It's just only been shown in rats. Now, the only single A tier supplement for increasing testosterone is Tongkat Ali. Tongkat Ali was shown to increase testosterone almost 44% in both middle aged men with low testosterone and healthy young men. This is the only supplement that's been shown to increase testosterone directly in healthy men and men with low testosterone. And its mechanism is directly related to testosterone production. Tonga Ali increases testosterone in two ways. Number one, it increases free testosterone. And there's two forms of testosterone. You have bound testosterone, where it's attached to sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. When testosterone is attached to SHBG, it can't bind to anything in the body, so the testosterone is rendered ineffective. Tonga Ali helps the body detach testosterone from SHBG so that it can exert its effects. Tonga Ali is also a known aromatase inhibitor. Aromatase is an enzyme that takes testosterone and turns it into estrogen. So by reducing the amount of aromatase in your body, Tonga Ali keeps more testosterone as testosterone and prevents it from being converted into estrogen. So both of these mechanisms are directly related to processes that increase testosterone directly. And since it's that combined with being able to do this in both healthy men and men with low testosterone, it goes in the A tier category. There were way too many supplements to cover for one video. So I wrote a blog where I created a tool that you can use to look up any supplement that was covered in these 3 studies if you want to know if it has a benefit on testosterone or not. But I will tell you, if it's not on this list here, it does not significantly increase testosterone. So if you are out on the market reading about supplements and you see something that's not on this list, you can pretty much guarantee that it's not going to positively benefit your testosterone levels in any significant way. Now, one concept you need to understand, and one reason why a lot of things are able to be marketed as testosterone boosters, even though they don't have a direct mechanism, is because anything that's good for your health is going to indirectly support your testosterone production. For example, fish oil, taking fish oil has been shown to increase testosterone. But that's not because fish oil tells your testicles to produce more. It's just providing conditions of health that allow your body to produce testosterone. So if you have an imbalance of omega 3 to omega 6 in your body, and you take fish oil, which is omega 3, and that brings your balance back to normal and reduces inflammation in your body, that's going to make your body healthier. And the healthier your body is, the more testosterone it produces. You could even say that oranges, for example, or water are testosterone boosters because being dehydrated decreases testosterone. But once your hydration is up to normal, your testosterone levels will be normal. And then back to the oranges example. Oranges contain a lot of vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. Antioxidants improve your health. And when you have improved health, your body's able to produce the most amount of testosterone possible. So for most supplements, just think of them as health promoting agents, not testosterone boosters. Because if it doesn't have a direct mechanism that creates testosterone in the body, it's just a health supplement. And the reason for this is because nothing in this world comes for free. Everything that you need to do to maximize your testosterone levels and live a healthy lifestyle requires effort, discipline, and consistency. You got to train, you got to do strength training and cardio. You got to get physical activity throughout the day. You can't just work out for an hour and then sit on your duff for the rest of your day. You need to get some extra movement in outside of the gym. You need to have strict nutrition. I highly recommend the paleo diet, but this requires you to have the discipline to avoid unhealthy foods and only eat the things that are highly nutritious. You need to have the discipline to stay hydrated and remember to do that. You need to have the discipline to go to bed and get enough sleep consistently and not stay up late on your phone or going out late and disrupting your sleep. You need to have the discipline to avoid substances like alcohol, weed, like we talked about, and other drugs. You need to have the consistency to do things to improve your mindset, your spirituality, like meditating and reading Stoicism. That requires discipline and consistency. And then, same thing with spirit. Whenever you're a good person, you're going to attract good people, but you need to work on yourself to be a good person, and that takes work. The point I'm making is that everything that actually moves the needle for your health and therefore your testosterone levels requires an input of work. On the other hand, supplements and all these other things don't. So, how could something that requires no work, just swallowing a supplement, be enough to significantly increase testosterone when it's a universal law of the universe that, quite literally, energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed? And anything in life worth having, including high testosterone, having high testosterone levels has tons of benefits, which you're probably after. Increases your libido, muscle mass, reduces body fat, gives you energy, mental clarity. Testosterone is fantastic, but nothing can be created or destroyed, and nothing comes for free. So, in order to reap the benefits of high testosterone levels, it's required that you put in energy, which comes in the form of effort and discipline and consistency in these lifestyle habits to get in return the benefits of high testosterone, which is why you need to focus 90% of your attention on the actions that are within your control and focus way, way less on the 10% of things that don't require any effort. And the reason why I'm hammering this point so hard is because if you're watching this video, especially up to the end, you're probably the type of person who obsesses over all the little details about, should I sun my balls to increase my testosterone? What supplement, what little cheat and hack can I do to get a tiny incremental increase in testosterone? You need to take all that energy and just focus on nailing the basics. The guy who takes no supplements but trains hard, eats clean, sleeps well, and meditates, takes care of his mind, is going to beat the guy every single time who takes every supplement on the market but maybe skips his cardio. He doesn't have comprehensive training. Maybe he eats junk food on the weekends because he doesn't have discipline. Maybe he stays up late on his phone because he doesn't value his sleep. Or maybe he has a negative mindset. Maybe he's internally distraught, anxious, and depressed because he doesn't have the discipline to work on himself from the inside. The guy who focuses on the things that matters is going to beat the guy who focuses on the things that don't matter every single time. The challenging part for most guys is that all of the things you need to do to optimize your testosterone levels naturally, all of the lifestyle factors, require specialized knowledge and discipline. You need specialized knowledge to know how to train properly and what to eat and how to set up a sleep schedule that perfectly aligns your circadian rhythm to maximize how much testosterone you produce in your sleep. You need specialized knowledge to know how to work on your mindset and meditate and read stoicism in the proper way. And then you need discipline to be able to avoid all of the substances that lower testosterone, like alcohol and weed. You need the discipline to avoid bad habits like porn and ejaculation so that you can retain your semen and optimize your testosterone. Because believe it or not, there is research supporting that. So if you're the type of guy who happens to lack the specialized knowledge to know how to set up a program that optimizes your testosterone, if you're the type of guy who lacks the discipline to follow through on a plan once it's made, if you don't have the ability to execute on the things that you say you're going to do in your life, that's going to hold you back. If this is the case for you, you'd be a perfect fit for our Testosterone Transformation Academy. This is a men's health and coaching program where we walk men through all of these pillars of testosterone optimization and hold them accountable to ensure that they follow through and do everything they need to do consistently to optimize their testosterone levels. So if that sounds like something that you could benefit from, go ahead and check out the link in the caption to see if you'd be a good fit. And if you are, we'll talk more about that. But that's all I have for this video. The takeaway is that honestly, you don't need to take any supplements at all. If you follow all of these processes in the A and B tier for the things that are within your control to take charge of your testosterone levels, that will do way, way more for you than taking any or every supplement on the market. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.